Okay, so we are live after the eclipse. It is August 17th, 2026. We're going to go over some basic information about the Crestone Ziggurat, as it is known to be, as it is called, and how it relates to the Pyramid of Protection magical ritual fashioned after Dion Fortune's work. Uh, after 10 days in Salida, now back and going to be reading again the Magical Battle of Britain and then going through excerpts of the book onto the channel for people with an interest that are out there on the internet that are watching. Let's see. What is the question that I gave Grok is why it would be perfect for the work that I've been seeking to do for a number of years. Okay. Because I already have a hunch, and not just there, but just hanging around certain places where there is a certain magnetism. So there's a nearby place called Indian Mount where there are some rock formations that are a mystery. And then, of course, there's some sort of an Indian ashram that is built on particular nodes and or ley lines. So it would also have special attributes for deep meditation. So I'm looking for somewhere to go to meditate for over an hour. It looks like that is the place. Yeah. And then I have some video. So right now I'm just vocalizing what I got off the internet. Okay, so I am putting some intention into a pyramid of protection, utilizing the mountain range in general, but specifically Crestone Salida, Chimney Rock, which is in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, but also Blanca Peak, which is in the region where the sand dunes are. So all these are mystical power centers, and with the right focus and visualization, kind of like martial arts, uh, the natural areas can be harnessed. And so I've been looking at this for over 10 years. This is not a new thing. It's that I'm coming here at a time in which my interests, thanks, have really taken off. And so I'm going to try to put my energy into them and more of the mystical personal development. I'll just say the place itself. Yeah, it's working. Crestone sits at the eastern edge of the San Luis Valley. So we'll do some centering on why Crestone has spiritual attributes, is believed to have spiritual attributes, draws in people from around the world that in some cases spend a lot of money. Okay, let's continue. So it's at the foot of the Sangredo Cristo Mountain Range area. The ziggurat is about 30 feet tall, and it was commissioned in 1978 by a private meditation and prayer tower. So it is on private property, and then you got to walk about 15 minutes to get up there. And the sense that I had getting up there was that is definitely a great place for sunrise and sunset, but a place for quiet contemplation. How it relates to Sufism and the spiral, I'm not sure exactly, but it's something that we should focus on specifically because I don't think these places are just places you just go sit down and just look out at random, but maybe places to apply certain intention. You definitely got a great view. And by looking at the view in the San Luis Valley from those power centers, I think that those are places of amplification for thought or thought forms. Same thing with the recent campsite that I went to that was actually private property that I was visiting about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago that I had to leave. Climbing the spiral puts you on a high vantage with views across the valley, the great sand dunes, and the surrounding peaks, literally elevating the practitioner between the earth and sky in the classic Mesopotamian, as in Middle Eastern, design sense of a ziggurat as a meeting place of the human and divine. So by knowing that ahead of time before going up there is going to add to the effect if you're seeking to create that as above so below in the effect of the person. Crestone as a whole functions as a modern spiritual node. More than 24 centers, Tibetan stupas, Hindu ashrams, Zen facilities, a Carmelite monastery occupy land grants that began in the late 1970s to 1980s. But one point that I would make is that the Crestone as it is right now is still in its infancy. And there's definitely different forces, some perceived to be the light and the dark, just like the rest of the world that would like to steer it in its own direction, have things, basically be in the image that they would want. Right. So, yeah, we'll just continue here. It also offers indigenous significance. Blanca Peak um, is a sacred eastern mountain for the Navajo. And the broader San Luis Valley has long been treated as a place of vision, healing, and emergence in Hopi and other traditions. Many visitors and residents describe the landscape as a natural vortex or a high energy zone. Dion Fortune's model and Alex's interest, right? Since Grok knows who I am, more about me than regular humans, Grok can weigh in on how this is all related. Dion Fortune is best known in this context for the magical Battle of Britain. During World War II, she organized a network of practitioners who performed coordinated meditations and visualizations invoking. Okay, this is why I'm doing this here. I'm doing this here because this is a power center where people purport to call in the masters, but sometimes they're calling in the aliens instead. So archangels, the Arthurian current, the cross, and other deeply rooted British symbols to form a psychic shield over the island to oppose the rising tide of Nazi occultism and aggression. She also wrote extensively on psychic self-defense, the construction of protective spheres or barriers of light, and the careful use of group thought forms. Alex has repeatedly referenced Fortune's work, especially psychic self-defense and the magical battle letters. He frames collective meditation and protective visualization as practical tools against modern form of psychic, spiritual, or geopolitical interference. That would be the archons, group mind influences, the idea of adapting Fortune's wartime method to a contemporary American landscape, creating a pyramid of protection rather than a simple sphere. It fits the kind of synthesis that he explores. Why Crestone and the Ziggurat works symbolically and practically. Vertical axis and pyramid geometry. A ziggurat is a already steeped ascending form that points towards the heavens, using its summit as the apex of a visualized protective pyramid over the Rockies, gives a concrete physical and energetic anchor. The leftward feminine spiral adds a balancing polarity that Fortune herself valued in magical work. Right now, we are in between a total solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse. So, one might argue that there's a balance of energies there. Network of sacred sites. Crestone's concentration of active temples, stupas, ashrams, and indigenous power places can function as secondary nodes or base points of the pyramid. Practitioners at different sites can hold complementary visualizations, lights, seals, angelic and ancestral guardians, mountain spirits. I'll read that again. While the ziggurat serves as the central transmitter or capstone. Okay, so it sounds like the ziggurat is perfect for visualization for the primary transmitter of the affirmations and the energy that's going out. And the energy is going out in a current of energy that at minimum I'm putting out to Europe, and it's going back and forth. And it is about, and not just there, but really, we would have energy going to different places, but by focusing in certain areas and looking at GPS leading affirmations about karma, returning to the attackers, various return to center rituals and montages, gives it power. Now, slightly I'm distracted here in this park because I feel like, unfortunately, because of the nature of my work and the nature of the podcast, people have told others basically to be afraid of me, or that I'm a problem, or that I exploit people. And it's sad because, for a number of different reasons, but I'll get into that later. So going back to what we're reading here. Yeah. Crestone's concentration of active temples, stupas, ashrams, and indigenous power places can function as secondary nodes or base points of the pyramid. Okay, so hanging around the different places and then putting photography out there that people can look at as they're meditating gives it more power. So being in the place like I am right now, and then even if I was to leave this place and go somewhere else, the experience of documenting it, visiting the different places, going to the ashram, meditating there for hours on end is just going to add to it as I already lived near Chimney Rock for 4 years. And in my book, by the way, on Solar Wars, which I don't have with me right now, but in my book, I wrote about this and I basically talked about people being able to do same time meditations using the power of the sun. Practitioners at different sites can hold complimentary visualizations. That would be different sites, people receiving my newsletter, light, seals, angelic, ancestral guardians, mountain spirits, while the ziggurat serves as a central transmitter or capstone. So, for example, we could do a live meditation at a certain time and having people in certain places that are participating in it, whether the meditation is facilitated online or it is done in some other way. There are ways, though, of people astrally, I guess, coming together, merging their forces together through visualizations on the same thing or the same mantras or the same images. That's essentially, the message from the Magical Battle of Britain. And I'm very focused on keeping the focus and not getting distracted right now. Landscape. The Sangredo Cristo and White Rockies already forms a natural continental backbone. Some call it a dragon, or like the mountains, like connected together, form some sort of a dragon. Anchoring protective work here leverages both the physical mass of the mountains and the long history of the valley as a place where people have sought spiritual power and protection. Public accessibility, contemplative atmosphere. The structure is free to visit. It's talking about the ziggurat. So it's a rare purpose built sacred architecture in a landscape already dense with spiritual centers. Now, what do we know about the nearby ashram and the close by Indian mounds and how visiting those power centers adds to the protection ritual? Okay, so this is interesting. I'm going to pause right now and just leave it at that.